like lilies, tulips, hyacinths, always welcome gifts. Or you can choose from silk and fresh flower arrangements. And there's always a nice assortment of cemetery decorations at Miller's. Open Monday through Saturday till 5 p.m. Miller's Greenhouses and Flower Shop. A full-service floral shop with daily deliveries to Uniontown on Route 119 in Smithfield. Call 724-564-2696.
And it is 3:15 on this Thursday afternoon, and we're joined with the folks from Montgomery Medical, and Tim Flecker is here. Tim, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
And good to see you, and you have some special guests, so you guys can take it away.
All right, thank you. President of Montgomery Medical, and I'm here today with Dr. Marcy Goyce. She's the owner and one of the physicians at Montgomery Medical, and also Dr. Betty Thomas, another primary care physician. So we'll start off, Dr. Goyce. I think you should recap the story of Montgomery Medical and just possibly tell us a little bit about Montgomery Medical.
Okay. So just recapping in general, I grew up in Fairchance, and my grandfather was Dr. Mark Montgomery. His wife Sue was his nurse, and they had a little white building office on Church Street where you came and got kind of all your needs for your medical desires. And he did everything from house calls and delivering babies, and that's kind of what I knew as medicine growing up. And when I decided to go into medicine, I went to Penn State for medical school and then decided to do a family practice residency and did that at George Washington University, but then married you, who was in the service, so we didn't come back home right away. So traveled around for quite a bit, but I had a lot of good experiences in urgent cares and ERs and different facilities in different states. And finally, when we moved back here in 2008, tried to get settled down, and then in 2011 started working on developing my own office, which I was told we couldn't do, but I didn't listen. So we started really being productive and opened our doors in 2013 and started out with just me, Jessica Redmond as our medical assistant, an office manager, and that was that, and a few patients a day. And now we've grown to 9 providers, hundreds of patients a week, thousands per month, and it's fantastic. So we beat the odds, and we're still working on it.
You said hundreds of patients a week. I'd say over 100 a day, I think is the current number. So why don't we, Dr. Thomas, why don't you talk real quick about, there's a new building, obviously, out on Big 6 Road in Smithfield, between Smithfield and Fairchance. It's 18,000 square feet, but one of the bigger, more obvious additions is this MontyMed same-day care.
Yeah, so
why don't you talk about that real quick? Because I don't think everybody understands what's actually offered there. And
so the MontyMed same-day care basically acts as your urgent care. So it's really nice for our patients, and even if you're not one of our patients, you can come to us too. It's a walk-in clinic where, if you need to be seen right away and you can't get into your PCP's office because they're really busy too, come on over to us. We have different services for your upper respiratory infections, UTIs, mild abdominal pains if you're nauseous, if you're vomiting, and sports physicals, things like that. We'll do it. So just come on over. You can walk in. You don't even need an appointment, which is great. We have x-ray services too. So if you feel like you have a strain or sprain or did you break something, come on over. If the provider thinks it's appropriate, we can always order it. We have testing to see if you have an upper respiratory infection and you think, hey, do I have COVID? Do I have flu? Do I have something else going on? We have those rapid acting testing that you can find out right in office as well, which is really nice. We also do sutures too, so if you have a little cut, you don't have to go to the emergency room. Come to us first and we can actually handle it. And it's nice because we go through your insurance, so your copays are much cheaper too. You don't have to pay an urgent care fee or an ER fee, which can be really expensive. So that's great. And then we also have like Holter monitors, just in case you're feeling dizzy and things like that. We can put a Holter monitor, which is basically a mobile EKG that we can put on you too right there in our urgent care as well. If you're having, if we think you need an EKG, we have EKGs as well. So
good. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
You want to add anything, Dr. Goyce?
Yeah, there's just lots of opportunities. And, my idea was, I thought that primary care was becoming just almost like a feeder mail to a specialist. If you had a problem, send them to this specialist. And you were just a referral source. And I do not want to be that, never wanted to be that. So we do try to offer a variety of conditions to be treated. So we'll try most anything within our comfort zones, using specialists when needed. And my other thing about, I guess, my office in general is that it's a community organization. So I take pride in the fact that I live in this community, I grew up in this community, came back to this community, and we treat this community. All of our providers are very much local. Mike Rua was our first PA to be hired, and he grew up around here, relatively speaking, but had been practicing for years before he joined our practice over 10 years ago, and he currently lives in Smithfield. We have 3 PAs and nurse practitioners that live in Uniontown. Kalina Toth, Nal Kurowski, Nathan Glass, and Kendall Soliero are all in Uniontown. And then Jenna Lutzka is in Connellsville. Brownsville is represented by Jenna Piclamini and Miranda Arison, now Bavard, but she is originally from Brownsville but is now in Carmichael. So we are all from this community. Even Dr. Thomas she's bringing in the West Virginia side. She's from Morgantown. So we're trying to just get sort of homegrown people and hometown people that want to stay and serve in this community. So that's part of my vision as well.
So maybe we just do a quick segue on team-based care and how many people actually work at Montgomery Medical now? Give or take.
You probably know that better than I do.
Plus or minus.
I don't know, just shy of 50.
Right.
Yeah. So, and we work as a team. I do believe, and I try to entrust everybody from check-in to check-out, medical assistants, nurses, all the administrative team with billing and those support systems, quality care. There's all sorts of facets, but none is better than the other, because without all of us working together, we will fail. So we try to do things together. Mm-hmm. Devin Hunter's been doing our marketing, and she's been trying to organize these walks. We've been doing these walks on through the months of March and April, gearing up to climb the summit at the end of April. And then prior to that, we had done Pilates Wall Challenge, and then we're going to do Zumba. So
I'm excited for
yes.
that.
I'm not. I'm going to pass on the Zumba.
What? You don't want to whip out your dance moves?
You don't want to.
We're going to do it in the parking lot. So it's fun. So we try to keep it fun. We do parties. We're going to go to a Pirates game in June. So, and we partner with Frontier and Renew You for these outings as well. So it's good. We try to all work together and keep it fun.
Okay, you mentioned Frontier. Maybe we should just talk about that real quick. I know it's a strategic partnership you've had. You want to give that one a shot?
I'll let Marcy do it.
Okay. Go ahead, Dr. Glenn.
So, Frontier Clinical Research began with the development actually of Kim Chapman. It was her vision. And so she had been working in research when we initially met in the, I guess, employee world. I've known Kim since we were kids. I'm a few years older, but we were still, I knew who she was. We weren't really friends because of the age difference. But she's a fantastic type A personality, workaholic, unfortunately, like myself. But with her determination and her skill set, she was able to build Frontier from a little one-study site within Montgomery Medical to Frontier with multiple sites and hundreds of studies for various conditions, from diabetes to knee pain to atherosclerotic processes, all sorts of things.
COVID.
Yeah. No, COVID swabs, COVID antibodies. It's just been incredible. So that team has continued to grow. So she's got sites in West Virginia, in Morgantown, and Kingsville, in Uniontown at Southwest GI, and out in Mount Pleasant with Dr. Pluto. So it's exciting. So there's all sorts of facets that we have going on. And all of this really is to benefit patients, because a lot of these studies do benefit patients. So we use our patients to help feed into the Frontier clinical studies, and we will continue to do that. Or you can volunteer if you're not our patient.
Right. Or even if you come on the same-day care side, sometimes there's flu swab studies and COVID swab studies that you can participate to. So.
Well, just recently we had been participating with a urinary tract infection study, and the new antibiotic through GSK was just FDA approved. So we were part of that, or Frontier was, so that was exciting.
I participated in probably 4 or 5 different studies over time: knee pain,
Asthma,
multiple asthma studies. So it's interesting, it's rewarding. I learn something every time, and it feels good to be able to advance medicine and just participate in trying to make our world a better place. So let's switch gears. Let's get to the meat of what you guys wanted to talk about today, and that's trying to make the most of your patient visit. So I'll start with you, Dr. Thomas. Tell me what's what should you be communicating to your physician or to the staff as you show up?
So I think this is really important because, a lot of times we're seen maybe like twice a year, sometimes even less. And so sometimes things happen and we want to talk about a lot of things, or the patient has a lot of things to talk about, but they don't know where to start. So how to make the most out of your visit, if it's a more serious topic, like if you're having chest pain or shortness of breath or dizziness, it's best to tell that to the MA right away. And then when we come into the room, let us know. A lot of times we're catching up on life and, it's hard to remember things. And then all of a sudden we're talking about depression or, our ankle pain. And then 15 minutes goes by and go, by the way, I'm having chest pain. No. Tell us at first that you're having chest pain or dizziness or shortness of breath. And why that's important is because so we know, okay, let's get an EKG. Let's start in the works. There's a whole process that we have in our EHR to kind of signal to our MAs like, okay, bring in the EKG machine, but we can't start that unless you let us know that. And also it gives us time to delve into that topic more, which is the most important part too. Because not all chest pain is the same, not all shortness of breath, or not all dizziness is the same. So that allows us more time to really delve into that topic, really ask you specific questions, and it kind of guides us on where we go, what tests we order, what lab studies we order, what we're thinking is going on, right?
Do you find sometimes that patients will say, as you're walking out the room,
yes.
Oh, by the way, doctor. and now you finally get to the real reason they're there.
Right, yeah. And I get it. Sometimes
Or the
you're
family
nervous.
member throws that out at you. As the patient's walking out the door, they give you the, hey, can I talk to you a minute? Like, should have had that first.
Yes.
And probably just
But it's
'cause
good
they're
information.
difficult conversations and people are fearful. And there's only a limited amount of time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The doctors have very constrained time demands, is the best way to put it. So please start with the most important aspects is the good lesson there.
Well, the unfortunate thing is patients will come, and we do encourage them to write things down, but sometimes they will literally write, they'll have a whole list, which a lot of times is not a big deal. But unfortunately, sometimes what's at the top of their list is not really their biggest physical problem, and that needs to be addressed first. They came in and they, like the shortness of breath, the chest pain. So I'm like, I know you want to talk about this ankle pain is not life-threatening. We've got to figure out these things, and we'll work on this, and then we're going to bring you back and work on the other things that aren't necessarily as pressing.
Yeah, because we want to manage all your concerns. We want you to be heard. So that's why it is nice. Bring a list to us, and then we can glance over the list and kind of prioritize, like Dr. Goy said, okay, we'll address these things, come back in a week or two and see me. We'll see how the other things are progressing or following up, and then we'll follow with your ankle pain or whatever else is going on. Or your medication concerns.
I like the idea of a written list. I'm a list-driven guy. If
Yes,
I don't
you
have a
are.
list,
This is your spreadsheet guy.
yeah,
And it's also a lot of
This can
patients.
be an Excel spreadsheet.
That's true. A lot of patients are anxious too, and they see us and then they forget, which is common. I
Right.
understand that. And then all of a sudden they're walking out the door and like, oh yeah, I forgot to mention that.
Speaking of forgetful patients, what can we do to help our elderly as they show up, or if you're bringing your aging parents to an appointment?
So bringing a list of their medications is really good. A lot of times they're seeing a lot of specialists too, and so they might be changing medications that we're not aware of. So bringing a list and making a list of their medications if they want, their dosages as well. Because even if they're on the same medication, let's just say metoprolol, because a lot of people know what that is, but their cardiologist changes it and we don't, then we don't know that. And so then we want our list to be accurate too.
Wait, doesn't the hospital just communicate that to you? Don't you know what every patient's medication they're on?
I wish. I
Yeah.
wish, but no,
No.
not always. So it's always really important to also let us know, my cardiologist or my nephrologist changed this, my kidney doctor, my heart doctor changed this, we want to let you know. So that'll be really helpful for us.
There's an unfortunate misperception and conception that because of the computer realm of healthcare, that everything just automatically feeds into EHRs, and they don't. So there's very little communication. And a lot of times, I know patients can attest to this, that the list of medications that they have that they've been on, they go to the hospital and it's still the same list that they had the last time they were admitted. They don't even update it, and they get upstairs to the floor and they're not even on the right medications.
Right.
So there's just a lot of confusion with that. It's very dangerous.
Also, one
Oh,
more
go ahead.
thing. If, when you're coming to us, it's really nice if you know which refills you need. So, a lot of times my patients will be like, oh, I don't know what refill I need. I'll just call the office back. And you can, but it's also nice if we just kind of address it right then and there. We can fill it there. So it saves you a call and having to look back. So before your appointments, along with that list, make sure, I need a refill on this, so that you can let us know. We could do it right then and there.
Yes, as someone that manages the phone volume and whatnot, a lot of those calls are sometimes pharmacies calling because somebody's expiring, and it'd be much, much better to the pharmacy, to our practice, and most importantly to the patient, if these issues were addressed in a more timely manner before it becomes a big problem.
Yes. Well, unfortunately, as patients can attest to, though, we can have scripts that there's refills in the script that was sent, and on their bottle it says none. I don't know how that is, but it is. So it's very, I say you have enough for the next 6 months, and they're saying the pharmacy says they need a refill. So it's very frustrating.
So it's always good to double check.
Sometimes I'll call the pharmacy myself while the patient's in the room, and I'll say, what's going on with this medication? And the pharmacist says, oh, nope, it's covered now, So it's nice. That's why it's nice to know once you're at the appointment, so we can just handle it right then and there.
Okay, how about children's visits? What can we do? What can our patients do to be more prepared for their child's visits?
So a really important factor of children's visits are immunizations. So especially when you're new to us, it's so important for us to have their immunization records. If you're, if they're 4, 5, 6, and they were seeing a different pediatrician, that's so vital for us as the first appointment. So we know, are they on track with their vaccinations?
Especially because there's usually a school form,
Yes.
and we need to fill it out.
And we need to fill
Sports
it out.
physical form.
And they're
Well, the
gonna need
unfortunate thing is there is a state registry for immunizations, but some physicians don't participate with it. Some organizations don't, so you can't track it. And it's only statewide. So if you live in West Virginia, it doesn't transfer over. I can't
Or for
see it.
pediatricians and
Right.
came out of Morgantown, right?
So that's the biggest.
There's an assumption that data is transparent in
I
medicine,
know.
and it's anything but.
And so that's really helpful for you all. That's helpful for us too, because then, no kid wants to come to the doctor's office multiple times if they don't need to, right? So then we can just have a vaccination there ready for them, we know. And it saves you like a nurse's visit from coming back to get the vaccination that they need.
Right.
How about when somebody's coming out of the hospital, or if they were in a skilled nursing facility? The industry term is transition of care, but what does that mean to the patient? And why is this important?
What's it mean to the patient? Probably just another extra visit. But from our perspective, it's actually a vital part of their care, because a lot can happen. We can follow along with the hospital if we know that they're in there. Some of them we can access, some not, especially if they're out of state. But even some of the local ones, I can't really see every day what's going on. And then if they go to skilled, I have no idea, or we have no idea what's happening. So these transition of care visits are of utmost importance, because oftentimes your physical status can change, your overall health can change, certainly your medication list can or will change, and we don't have those updates. And then we'll often get a call from visiting nurses that might be seeing the patient, and they want to know about some medication. I'm like,
I have no idea.
I have no idea what's going on. So we have plenty of spots available for TCM visits. There's no reason you can't get in there, and it's generally deemed by especially Medicare that within a week, certainly 2 at the latest, that you are seen after a discharge from either the hospital or the skilled facility. So we and even if it's telehealth, just to get an update of what's going on, because also maybe you need visiting nurses.
Right.
Maybe you're supposed to see maybe you're specialist, maybe you're supposed to have a test done
Right.
that's not even ordered, or
That
they
needs to be
ordered it,
followed up
but it's
on,
not
right.
done because of delays in care. It's not done. It's not scheduled for 3 months, and that's not appropriate. It's not going to work.
Or blood work that needs to be
Right.
followed up on,
Rechecked. Right.
And also, when you're in the hospital or skilled, so many things are happening to patients, and we understand that, and to get everything that's going on, it's a lot. And so that's where we come in as your primary care physician of explaining to you, hey, this is what happened. This is why you're put on this medication. This is why it's really important to take or, monitor. Do we have to add on something, increase the dosage or lower the dosage of something? So if you have questions, that's why we're here. So we can better explain to you, this is why you're on 5 different medications all of a sudden. Because it can be confusing. And sometimes we don't understand why are we taking all these medications, but they're actually really important for our health.
So let's talk about some of these extra services at Montgomery Medical. I saw GCM on the list. Who wants to take on what is GCM and explain that? CGM,
yeah.
Sorry. I don't have my glasses on.
So CGMs are continuous glucose monitors, Dexcoms, Freestyle Libres, and they're phenomenal. They are absolutely eye-opening, I think, as far as care and for diabetes patients. Or even if you're not diabetic, you can get them over the counter. You can buy them and just eat something and see how your sugar rises. It is amazing how difficult it is to understand what's called a glycemic index, or how high and how quickly your sugar rises when you eat something. Your blood sugar rises. So these continuous monitors basically are bathed 24/7 in intercellular or interstitial fluid. It's not really blood, so there's a little delay from your finger stick reading to that, but it overall gives you a 24/7 picture of highs and lows and where you are, and you can learn, wow, I just ate a pretzel or two, and why did my blood sugar go up? It was just a pretzel.
Right.
Not understanding that that's just empty carb flour. And
Right. Ignorance isn't always bliss, especially when it comes to diabetes, even though sometimes we want it to be. But yeah, I think it's really taught patients, like you said, when I eat this piece of toast, which I eat all the time, no, my sugars are really rising after that.
but you use sugar-free jelly.
Oh, no. No, why is it so? But it does really teach the patient. And I think we've seen it a lot. Once these came out, your sugars were not controlled, and then all of a sudden they do this. Even if we do the sample, like the 10-day samples for the diabetics, they really learn how to control their diet, and it's really helped them in losing weight. It's helped them in managing their diabetes, and they tend to really like it a lot, honestly.
Yes.
And you're not having to prick your fingers all the time.
Right.
And then you're not constantly worrying about, is my sugars dropping? Because there's an alert set. So that's also really protective too, because you can have high sugars, but low sugars are actually very, very dangerous.
So is the wearable device talking to them via their phone, or how are they getting that information?
So for the tech savvy, or you don't have to be tech savvy, but as long as you have a smartphone, there is an app, but also there are sensors too. If you don't have
A flip phone still?
Right.
We
If
also
you
have
have a phone.
we also have to mention Judy Loomis, though,
Oh,
because
gosh, yes.
she will call patients once a week, twice a week to follow up with the Dexcom or the Freestyle Libre. She is our champion of these things. We have
wonderful, yeah.
over 300 of these employed with our patients, or in use with our patients, and the results are phenomenal. I mean, there was just, she always gives us success stories, and she'll give us updates, and she'll call and talk to the patient about what they're eating and making adjustments, and she'll give with their diet, and then we'll make adjustments with medications until we can get these A1Cs to a much more acceptable level, and it's really been life altering for the care.
So Judy Loomis is a nurse working inside your practice, and she's monitoring this data she's monitoring people's blood sugars?
She will call them, and she can see the readings sometimes, but she'll just ask them
Okay.
what the readings are, and then what the fastings, and then she'll give us a report, and then we'll make decisions.
Okay, let's. What are some of the other items inside of Montgomery Medical that you want to talk? What you want to share?
So we have what's called the Rhythm Express, which is nice because for those who have shortness of breath, dizziness, a fluttering sensation like palpitations, an EKG you can get in the office, which kind of tells us the electrical conductivity of your heart, but that shows a moment in time. But sometimes, you come to us, you're not having the symptoms, and that makes absolute sense, right? But then all of a sudden you go home, and all of a sudden you're having the lightheadedness again and the fluttering sensation. So that Rhythm Express is a little device that kind of attaches to your chest wall and acts as a mobile EKG. So we can actually see what's going on when you're at home, while you're working out, while you're at work, and you're having these symptoms. And there's a button in the middle that you can actually trigger to kind of key us in on, hey, I'm feeling this right now. And then there's a diary that you keep too, and the diary is super important so that we know we can kind of see what's going on while this is your heart activity while you're having the lightheadedness to see, okay, is this really coming from your heart or is there something else that's going on? So it's nice, and it's nice that our office offers that. We don't have to order it from somewhere else, and you're not getting a text message and then all of a sudden it's in your mail and you have to apply it yourself. Our staff applies it. We show you how to use it. You can get it in office. If it's not available in office, we'll call you back and
Yeah,
come back in
sometimes
2 days.
there's usually we have enough, but usually we can get it on within a day or two.
Anything else on the list you guys want to cover?
So we also have Spravato therapy, which is for these are for our treatment-resistant depression patients. So what that means is, if you're depressed and you're on Lexapro, Prozac, Zoloft, and you've tried more than 2 and you're just still depressed, there's actually a treatment called Spravato, and it's nasal esketamine. It's actually the first nasal spray out there for treatment-resistant depression. And it's nice because, when you've been on the Lexapro and the Zoloft and all those medications, which is really good, sometimes it takes 4 to 6 weeks for that depression to kind of start to improve. But with this therapy, we've actually been seeing benefit in the second week of therapy. So, the patients that are on it that I've seen, it makes me so happy because by the second week, they're like, I'm going to go with I'm going out more. I'm in my social circles more. Because when I first see them, I don't want to do anything. I want to just be at home. I'm not, functioning at work, or I'm not functioning at home. My relationships are not as good. I'm irritable. And then even just by the second week, and obviously everyone's different, but they're saying, I'm going out more. My spouse wants me to go for our anniversary dinner, and I went. And I go, well, what'd you do all the other years? She's like, I just wanted to stay at home. I didn't want to do anything. So it's really, really nice. I love seeing that. So if that's you, where you've been on multiple medications and you still feel like your depression's just not controlled, this can certainly be an option. You don't have to be a patient of ours. If you're seeing another PCP or you're seeing a psychiatrist, you can still be considered for therapy at our office. Call us, talk about it with your PCP, talk about it with your psychiatrist.
Or just make an appointment with you.
Yeah.
So Dr. Thomas is the champion of the of Spravato. She's the only one in the office that employs or utilizes the drug in the therapies and such. So
call us. Our girls will look into it, and then you can have a consult with me, and I can see if this medication's going to be good for you. If you follow with a psychiatrist, I'll get into contact with your psychiatrist too to see if that's a good therapy for you. But again, you don't have to follow with a psychiatrist, and you don't have to be a patient of ours. So definitely think about it, especially with May coming up, May being the Mental Health Awareness Month. So think about it.
Okay.
we also have we have the relationship with Chestnut Ridge as well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need counseling, we do have 2 counselors that come on site to help with that. So patients don't have to be uncomfortable going out to therapy. They can do it right within our office, and that seems to be pretty successful.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're using Spravato or any of those medications, therapy is additionally beneficial. So we do encourage it.
And you can continue following with your own counseling as well, but just in case you need one, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which are the last 2 topics?
Well, there's
We're
not-
only going to be able to do one.
There's no time for that.
Right. Okay. So, real quick, because we're running out of time, I want to talk about I always like to talk about what's in the news. And I read in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette 2 days ago that there's a measles outbreak in Erie, Pennsylvania. Obviously, if anyone's been following this, there's a big outbreak in Texas. I think we even talked about this last time we were on the air. But people are probably asking you, what's your thoughts on this measles outbreak, Doctor?
Get vaccinated. That's my biggest thought, honestly. I mean, so the measles vaccination is 2 doses, right? So the first dose, if you get that, you're 93% effective against getting measles. If you get the second dose, 97% effective. So the fact that kids are dying makes me so sad because this was eliminated in 2000.
2000, yeah. And for those that are listening, if you've been vaccinated, you do not need a booster. That's not been. I've had several questions call in about that to the office, but there's been no updates that you need to get any additional vaccinations. So as it stands, we do not need to reboost.
Okay. Do you want to have a discussion at all about other vaccines that the science. Obviously, it's a political. They're looking at me. I want to have a political discussion. They don't want to have a political discussion, but I think it's important. It's in the news. Is there any theories inside of the medical world, I'll say, saying that these, FDA-approved vaccines are problematic, that you're at risk? And I bring this up because I hope that people would trust. This speaks to trust. They should be trusting their physicians, their PCPs. These are individuals that have gone to 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of med school, 3 years of residency each, quite a few years of experience, not quite as much experience, but still, I find it shocking that someone would go out and read something on the internet and take that as gospel over what I would consider the most of the medical community.
Oh, it is amazing.
Yeah,
You can read one thing on the internet and it is gospel, or you see a TikTok and it's definitely good. Methylene blue is a common thing now to cure all ailments. I'm like, oh, that's different. But immunizations have been proven to prevent disease. Are they without risk? No. Some people do have adverse events to immunizations. That is not a secret. But it's usually short-lived arm soreness, something like that, but something more severe like Guillain-Barré syndrome. We know that.
Right.
That's not an unwarranted risk. It's not life-threatening. We can keep you from that. But these other diseases that are either life-altering like polio used to be, or life-threatening like measles has been recently, it's just sad.
It is sad, I agree.
Yeah. There are countries where you can't get these vaccines, and I'm sure that they would love to have them.
I agree.
How about shingles? I just turned 50. Well, not just. But
I'm like...
So I did go out and get my shingles vaccine, and I see people that catch shingles. And have you had? Is there still a lot of shingles? Do people still catch it?
Yes.
Yeah. It's unpredictable.
Right, and it's really painful too. So what I've noticed is that people who have experience with shingles, whether they're family member, they're more likely to get it because they know that the pain there is really bad, and that pain can persist. It's not like sometimes it can be a few days, sometimes it could be months.
Or years, yeah.
Or years, yeah.
Yeah, it's a reactivation of the chickenpox virus. So it just lies dormant in your nervous system and reactivates along what's called a dermatome, and you get nice little blisters that eventually scab. But that nerve dermatome that virus came out on, it feels like it's on fire for days to months to sometimes years. Usually it's under times of stress, but I've seen people that are immunocompromised and don't get shingles. I've seen people that are 100% seemingly healthy that break out in shingles. It's really unpredictable. So Shingrix is the newer vaccine. It is a series of 2, 1 dose and then the second at 2 to 6 months later. But
So you guys, switching gears again, you talked a little bit about the Montgomery Medical Walks. It's a beautiful day out today.
Yeah.
It hasn't been every Wednesday since, but why don't you explain what you're trying to do and what you're trying to get staff members and patients and your community to do?
There's a little saying that goes around our office by a particular gentleman named Randy, who says, if you ain't got your health, you ain't got nothing. So we're trying to empower people to take better care of themselves and to be more healthy. I'm a huge advocate for activity and exercise. You don't have to be a marathon runner. You don't have to be a mountain climber. But whatever you can do, it is vital to your own health. So we've been trying to engage the community. They've been involved. They've been invited to come to these events with us for the walking. We have a good relationship with the YMCA as well. I encourage my seniors, especially if they have the Silver Sneakers program. It's free. Go. And we've even gotten some vouchers from the Y to try and encourage people to go. So for our patients, we have some vouchers for 3 free trial days at the Y that we're willing to share with you. So,
And I heard they have a nice pool. So if walking hurts you, go into the pool. That's good for your joints.
right.
Yeah, I've been involved with the YMCA for a while. The senior program is very active. It's and it's not just good for their physical health. It's good for their mental health. I see them in there. They're socializing, having coffee. You can see there's groups of friends. So I think that's a valuable community asset. I'm glad you guys are promoting it. It looks like we're going to have a little more free time, so I'm going to bring up one more subject.
Jeez.
Let's talk about GLP-1s. And
That is not a quick subject, Tim. Oh, my.
So-
how much time? I don't know where he is.
so that's all right. We got GLP-1s, what are they? And I'll give you, it's weight loss drugs. It's well, they're not new drugs, but why don't you go through the history?
Why don't you?
Just loves doing this stuff.
I know. Well, these drugs were originally made to treat diabetes. I remember years and years ago there was Byetta that was a twice-a-day injection. And then there was Bidurion, and then there was Victoza. And Victoza actually became Saxenda, which was for weight loss. But it was an everyday injection, and people just didn't want to take a shot every day. And then that became Ozempic. Not really that same molecule, but the development came into Ozempic. And then Ozempic was made to treat diabetes, but as a sort of a side effect, they found that people were losing weight. So then Novo Nordisk did studies and said, wow, if you're on Ozempic, if you're not diabetic and you take Ozempic, do you lose weight? And the answer was yes. So they recoined that as Wegovy. Well, that's Novo Nordisk. And then, Eli Lilly had a product called Trulicity, which was a once-a-week treatment for diabetes. Well, they sort of one-upped it, and those were just GLPs, but then Eli Lilly added something called a GIP and created Mounjaro, which is the treatment for diabetes. And people lost weight, they did trials, hence Zepbound. So, and then there was a shortage. So you have semaglutide basic, and then tirzepatide on the Eli Lilly side. So those two drugs then became compounded. And I have seen so many good results as you have with, really the Ozempic and the Mounjaro primarily, because those were easy to get covered if you had diabetes. But unfortunately, due to cost and insurance companies not wanting to assume all these costs, there's all these obesity riders in insurance policies that obesity medications aren't covered. There have been obesity medications out there for years, but they're not paid for, so they're prohibitively expensive. But when there was a drug shortage, compounding pharmacies took advantage of an old rule and started making it. And
so what sparked the change? Do you guys remember? I have an idea. Weren't there like a bunch of celebrities that came out and admitted that they
lost weight.
They lost weight, and their weight loss was attributed to, I forget which of the 15 drugs I lost track in there. Which
most popular?
Which one was it?
Semaglutide.
Yeah.
And then I think, it wasn't more than a year ago, right? So then demand went through the roof. And as the demand for these drugs, then the FDA was like, my goodness, the people that need it, the diabetics that needed this beyond just weight loss, but to control their diabetes, could not get access. So then the FDA ruled that it was not emergency use, but emergency use drug, and therefore other entities could start making this. And that's when the floodgates opened. That's when Hims started selling it online. What other?
Row, I've heard.
Yeah, there's online entities.
So
when the minute I could see it advertised during a sporting event, that's when you know it's hit the big league.
Yep.
So your patients, you've had patients with good success?
Oh yeah.
Lots of them?
Oh, lots of them.
yeah, unfortunately, they're very popular medications, and they do work. They would work for many. They don't work for all. There's still a lot about obesity that we don't understand, but we do try to work with patients at Montgomery Medical to encourage them to do exercise, and it's good nutritional counseling and what you need to be doing protein-wise and things like that. These medications are not without risk by any means whatsoever. There are contraindications, absolutely, and they have to be monitored closely. We did start selling compounded GLP-1 GIP combinations at Montgomery Medical just in the past several months. My only regret is I didn't start doing it sooner, because now tirzepatide has been taken off of the drug shortage list, so it can no longer be compounded, and semaglutide is April 22nd is their
So what does that mean? It can no longer be compounded. What does that mean to the average patient? I know what it means, but what's that mean to the average patient?
It means that these compounded pharmacies are not allowed to make it.
So the only company that's allowed to sell it is the
actual pharmaceutical company.
Pharmaceutical company that has
which is Novo Nordisk.
Has the patent. In this case, it's Novo Nordisk, and they're charging.
Well, you can buy it basically $500 a month for all doses.
Yeah.
Maybe $400 if you get it in a vial.
Yeah.
But it's a lot.
And what was Montgomery Medical what were you selling that same product for, the same molecule?
For semaglutide, it's $149. For tirzepatide, it's $250
to start.
to start.
And then it increases. But, the unfortunate thing is with the loss of the compounding, there's still going to be a black market for this stuff, and people are going to do it, and I fear where they're going to get their product from. I mean, I did a lot of research, and I was hesitant to do it, but I did a lot of research because people were really wanting this, and I knew that my patients were getting this in the mail from wherever. They were just going to whatever place, driving an hour to get it, and like, who's doing whatever?
You don't know what's in it.
I have no idea. So we found basically FDA approved and monitored pharmacies that were making it here in the United States, and I felt more comfortable with that. So that's why we started selling it out of Montgomery Medical, and then we also have it at Renew You MediSpa too, for those patients that just want to go there and get it with their own script. So, but I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I think that there should be a huge political push actually for the betterment of the country to actually make these medications more accessible. But I don't know. I don't have that power. But they do work for many, many people. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, not for all, but there are still medications in development because, as you mentioned Frontier earlier, there's a study that we're going to be having for an oral GLP-1 in the future. So patients potentially through Montgomery Medical or not could be involved in that study. But we've gotten approved. We just don't have the protocols or exactly when it's starting. But those kinds of things are exciting. That's how you get new medications. And sometimes the later ones are better than the first ones. Mm-hmm. So we're hoping for even more improvements.
So why do you think, and I'll answer if you want me to, but why do you think insurance companies are not, if obesity is an epidemic, as many physicians would probably argue, why are insurance companies not paying for this treatment, this therapy?
It's expensive.
It's expensive.
It's really expensive.
Right. If they're paying $500 per person.
No, they're not. They're paying $12.
Oh, so if you're going through insurance, it's up to $1,200.
Yeah.
Is the reimbursement rate that an insurer has to pay. If you look at that and you look at it's blowing the Medicaid budget, it's blowing the Medicare budget, it's blowing almost all the commercial insurances. They're putting roadblocks in the way of people to get those.
But my argument is, we do so many proactive, or very few proactive things. We're all reactive, right? So if you get these problems and you develop the problems from diabetes with your cardiovascular problems or your neuropathies and your whatevers, we'll treat all that. But we don't want to be proactive and prevent them and give people actually healthier lives to live. Now, it's not just, you can't just take a shot and fairy dust and everything's lovely. It doesn't work that way. You have to actually work with the medications, and you have to exercise, and you've got to eat protein, and so it takes education, and that's not free either. You've got to come see us, but also nutritional value in food is not a priority in this country. We prioritize junk food. Mm-hmm. That's what's cheap. So that's a whole nother issue. Mm-hmm. But our diet is difficult to manage, and the lack of understanding of what nutrition is unfortunate. Because it's just creating a bigger problem.
Right. There's a lot of disincentives in the healthcare system. I would say it's not even it's not an insurer's fault, but maybe an insurer doesn't want to invest in a patient that they might not have next year.
That's true.
And that's part of the problem. Maybe in health insurance, as an employer, I could switch insurance companies next year. Why am I going to invest a significant amount of money? $18,000 is what I'm hearing, or 12 times some significant amount of money in a patient that I'm never going to see the benefit of it.
Well, the other one quick thing is this prior auth. So unfortunately, your insurance company might tell you it just requires a prior auth to get these medications. I don't know how many hours poor Alex has spent, and others, but primarily Alex, filling out prior auths, and it doesn't work. The insurance companies, I hate to say, will lie to you, but they will. You will be misinformed by them for how easy it is to get these medications. It's not that simple. But we will keep trying for you.
We don't want to go down the rabbit hole of health insurance. It's a nightmare. We need about 10 more hours. But we're out of time, so Dr. Goyce, Dr. Thomas, thanks for coming online today, and appreciate your feedback to our patients in the community.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, thanks everybody. And these are the folks from Montgomery Medical here this afternoon on WMBS. It is sunny and 60, and we have CBS News coming up here. You're listening to WMBS Uniontown, and it is 4 o'clock.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by O'Reilly Auto Parts.